Hi, this is Mohammed. Today I'm going to demonstrate how we can create virtual machine scale set, that is VMSS in short form. For that reason, we need to create some resources at first. So I log into the portal with my credential. At first, we need a resource group. Then we need a virtual network and one subnet in that virtual network. And after that, we can create a VMSS virtual machine skill set as like a virtual machine, but with some scaling rules and regulations. So let's jump on creation of these resources and we'll learn while we create the whole thing. First, we need to create the resource group. I give a name of this resource group like RJ19 because today is 19 June and it's on Sweden Central region. And I create this one. This has been created. And now I create the virtual machine, virtual network. Yeah, get the virtual network. I click create and then select the resource group, which is created up here, which is created a few minutes before. I give a name of this virtual network, VNet 19. Next IP address, I keep this IP address, which one is default, but I remove this default subnet and create a new subnet here. I give a name like subnet 1 and I give it a IP that 10.0.1.0/24 and add this one and then next running the validation and it's passed and now create this virtual network with subnet. When it's done, we can see this deployment is ongoing. When it's done, we can see this virtual network and subnet, and then we start creating this VMSS on that one. We go to the resources. We can see the overview of this virtual network. It's on the resource 19 resource group, and the subnet, you can see the subnet here, the subnet 1. If we click here, you can see the subnet 1 IP4 address, IPv4 address, and now we go back to the main dashboard and start creating the virtual machine scale set. And then start with click button, create button. I pick up the resource group. I give a name of this virtual machine scale set like 19 VMSS, just like today is 19 June. That's right. And it's on the Sweden Central region availability zone. I can pick up zone like every region have a couple of zones, minimum 3 zones. So I pick up zone 1 and 2. So it means that when I create a virtual machine, the scale set, it will create one machine in zone 1, another one in zone 2, and alternatively zone 3 in zone 1 and machine number 4 in zone 2. That's why. And I leave the orchestration mode as flexible and security type is standard. I pick up the image for just simplicity. For the simplicity, we just pick up the Windows 10 image, and if the username and password for this virtual machine skill set. And I confirm the licensing issue. Then the next spot. I'm not doing anything on this spot here right now. Disk, I'm not doing anything else on disk as well. On networking, I have to choose the virtual network, which one I need to use. The VNet 16, I'll pick up. And when I pick up the VNet, I can see that there is a network identity verification card NIC1 has been assigned with the subnet, and I just need to do some little bit on here with some edit option. I pick up this public inbound port, allow some port for RDP. I just pick up this RDP so we can RDP the remote machine of VMSS. Otherwise, we can't access that one. And IP address enable and accelerated networking also enable. And then, okay, there's scaling. Now the scaling options. Now before scaling networking, I'm not choosing any load balancer at the moment. I'll create load balancer and VMSS combination, how they configure in another video that will in future. But for the time being, this is the simplest VMSS creation. And then now scaling, when we go for the scaling, like instance count, initial instance count, it means when I create this virtual machine, the scale set, start creating two machines at the same time. And the scaling policy, I can pick up this custom, like minimum number of instance and maximum number of instance of this virtual machine skill set. If the resource is, if the virtual machine resource skill set need more resources, how many number of machine they can make, maximum, and what will be the minimum number if there is not enough workload on this skill set. So that is minimum level instance, and that I pick up that is as 1. I pick up the maximum number of skill set instance like 6, and scale out CPU threshold, there is it is 75%. Okay, I keep as it, but for example, I keep for the 5 minutes. If the threshold of the CPU utilization is 75%, then the virtual machine skill set will increase the number of the machine and increase the instances of machine, one machine at a time. So, and if the resources is no longer in use and CPU threshold going down up to 25%, then it will come down, decreasing the virtual machines from the scale set, one machine at a time, not all the machine at the same time. So it needs 5 minutes waiting time for increasing the number of machine in the skill set and decreasing the number of machine in the skill set if it requires. Then next, management, I'm not doing anything other than boot diagnostic disable because we don't have any storage account right now. And the health, I'm not doing anything on here, and advanced, nothing here. And tags, also nothing here. Then create and review. So validation has been passed. Now start creating. It might take a couple of minutes, like virtual machines creation, so we can see how long it takes. Deployment in progress. We have to wait a few minutes before. So we have to wait a little before it finish the deployment. Otherwise, we can't do anything. This is almost very similar with the standalone virtual machine, but only difference is that we have a couple of machines and number of machine increasing and decreasing according to the workload on the server. And we already declared the scaling in and scaling out, scale out policy, how to increase and decreasing the number of machine, and how long they should wait before creating or decommissioning the machine from the skill set. At this moment, when they start making this virtual machine skill set, initially they might create more than 2 instances of machines, because while creating this machine, it might need more CPU usage. So it might create a couple of machines at the same time while it creates the machine set for the first time. But after 5 minutes, the workload is no longer that much, and then it will automatically decrease the machine. Then we can intentionally put some workload on one virtual machine, then the machine will use the more CPU, and we can see how the skill set works. So while we create extra load intentionally in one machine, so we can see the effect of that one. Now that's done. Now we go to the resources of VMSS, and we can see this virtual machine skill set information is on subnet 1 of virtual network VNet 16, and on the resource group are our resource group 16, and we can see the instances. So you can see there are already 2 instances has been created, because our initial instance was 2 in our policy. And if you go to the scaling option, you can see the configuration of this scaling policy, like our when we create, if the CPU threshold 75%, then we increase the number of instances of the virtual machine by 1. And when the CPU threshold less than 25%, then it will decrease 1 machine at a time. And instance limit is minimum 1, maximum 6, and when nothing to do in this virtual machine skill set, we just decrease this virtual machine 1 by default. Although we create starting by 2 instances at the same time, and when we deploy this virtual machine skill set, like we have two instances running at the moment. If you go to the scaling option, we can have a look on something different like running history. Run history, if you go for the 1 hour, because this is only created just a few minutes before, we might see that there is a few, just a little bit of this line you can see on the right side, just because it start creating 1 or 2 minutes before. So this graph will update it after 5 to 7 minutes, because sometimes it might take a couple of minutes to update this graph on the fly. So if we go to the instances, you can see that already it's creating one more instance, because while they create these two virtual machines for the first time, it takes more than 75% CPU resources, and it's more than 5 minutes. So it need to have, it seems that it needs more power, and it start creating another virtual machine because we declare this in our skill set. So if I click on this middle one, this virtual machine, we can see that we have a public IP, and we can do remote desktop connection on this machine like before, and it will ask for the username and password. I give my username and password for this skill set. And say yes. And I hope you can see the virtual machine. Yeah, is Windows 10 virtual machine. You can see this. Accept this. This is almost ready, this machine. So if I go to the taskbar, go to the taskbar of this virtual machine, and you go to the more details and the performance and the CPU usage, we can see that CPU usage is 100% because of the third machine is creating on the back. So that's why the CPU usage is getting higher right now. Like if we go to the virtual machine skill set instances, you can see there is third PC, that is third virtual machine is ongoing, and that's why the CPU usage is more than normal usage, because we are not giving any workload, but still for this machine creation work, it's using extra resources. And we might take wait few minutes, and we can see that after creating this third machine, it will decrease automatically because we are not giving any extra workload. Then if we give any extra workload, it will start creating the next machine. Maybe I can give an intentional workload here, like I create one text document like workload, like workload, and when they open this one and make this one like workload dot batch, just create a batch file named like this, and then save as workload workload.dat and then save it. When I save this one, we can see this workload batch file has been created here. When you click on this, instantly to start giving some extra pressure on this virtual machine CPU. Like straight away, you can see this CPU is getting higher because of this one is running. And if we just minimize this virtual machine instance, you're watching the virtual machines screen right now. And if you go here, if it runs for 5 minutes, then you can see there is another one, and the machine will start creating. You can see that in the meantime, it start as the CPU threshold was a little bit higher before I creating this batch file. And when I create this batch file, it creates more pressure and start making another one because one process was running, and I keep extra load, pushing the extra load. And even if I put another one, if I need to create another text workload like extra workload file and start open this one, my mouse is not working properly anyway. Yeah. Extra work load.dat and then save again extra workload.dat and save it as a batch file and run this one again also. You can see it needs enormous power. Even if we log on to the second virtual machine with RDP, we can see that the CPU is using enormous power. So if I go back to the instances here, if I wait a couple of minutes, I might see that it's another machine is going to start grading here. So you can see the portal with the instant update. Although it's not 5 minutes, that's why it's not creating the fifth machine. But if we go to scaling and if we go to the running story for 1 hour, last 1 hour, you can see this machine performance, CPU usage going higher and higher. And it's already created 4 instances. And maybe if we wait a little bit more, we can see this graph getting higher and higher, and the number of instances getting increased in the meantime. If we run this through program for a couple of minutes, we can see the fifth machine is in start making. And if we decrease, stop one of these batch file, instantly it will decrease the CPU power usage, and it will start decommissioning the machines waiting after 5 minutes. So this is the way we can create the VMSS and see the scaling policy, how it works. So it's pretty straightforward. Even we can click on the scaling policy and configure, and you can update the threshold and number of instances, creation and decommissioning number. here on the fly and save it. So I think it is a good things to play around. So I think that's enough for this video today. Thanks for watching.